Tara, mag-TikTok tayo. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this last of the webinar series on Tara, mag-TikTok tayo. This is a conversation with Honorable Maria Leonor Robredo, Vice President of the Republic of the Philippines, on responding to the call of Magis to heal as one country. On June 5, we had the first of the webinar series, focused in our local arena, in which we invited the local government units of Naga City and Legazpi City, respectively, to be part of the same conversation. Further similar activity was conducted on July 3, where we had the local Chief Executive of Manila, Honorable Isko Moreno Dumagoso, as our resource speaker. In the two previous webinars, cases of the said local government units as to how specifically they responded to this COVID-19 pandemic were shared and discussed. Similarly, this afternoon, we shall have the opportunity to listen and get first-hand information from the Vice President Leni, the initiatives and responses that the Office of the Vice President have been doing to combat this COVID-19 pandemic. This activity is organized by the Ateneo de Naga University Center for Local Governance in coordination with the Graduate School, Master in Public Administration, and Master in Business Administration cluster, and in partnership with the Association of Schools of Public Administration in the Philippines and the Philippine Society for Public Administration. I am Malu Barciliano of the Ateneo de Naga University, and I will be the moderator for this webinar. This activity is streamed live via the Ateneo CLG YouTube channel and the Ateneo CLG FB account. With this, I formally welcome our participants and viewers who are streaming live using the platforms mentioned, not only those from the Ateneo de Naga University community and those based in Naga and its outskirts, but those coming from all parts of the country and the world. We have registered participants and viewers who are affiliated with the two professional organizations, the Association of Schools of Public Administration in the Philippines and the Philippine Society for Public Administration. I wish to acknowledge the online presence of our University President, Father Roberto Ezequiel Rivera of the Society of Jesus. Also, we are joined online by Father Cel Reyes, Superior of the Naga's Jesuit Community, Ms. Gemma Marin, Member of the Ateneo de Naga Board of Trustees, Dr. Ana Marie Caraos, Member of the Ateneo de Manila Board of Trustees, Father Emmanuel Lebosada of the Society of Jesus, the Chaplain of the Ateneo de Cebu, Marby Ramos and Jasmine Bassett, researchers of the Institute of Church and Social Issues, and Ms. Jay Tan, consultant of the Bukidnon Jesuit Mission District. As we all know, in the Southeast Asian region, the Philippines is one of the countries that has been affected by most by the COVID-19 pandemic. And this is much more than a health crisis. It is a human, economic, and social crisis, and is now attacking the country at its core. There is now an increasing poverty incidence, urgent call to respond to the basic social needs, and the need to have a more resilient community through a strong leadership and governance framework. The need to be Magis in our respective rights is called for. To quote Dr. Mesher, an assistant professor of Christian ethics at Xavier University in Cincinnati, Ohio, Magis is about being the kind of person who contemplates who God is and what God wants, and who acts to be ever more attentive and responsive to participating with God in making this reality here and now. And this is our prayer for everyone. It is in this context that we provide you this learning session this afternoon, so that we can be provided with information and the concrete steps being undertaken in response to this health crisis, and also in response to being Magis in our own rights. To formally start off, we'll now have the presentation and discussion of Honorable Maria Leonor Robredo. After her presentation, we shall have the reflections and reactions of our invited reactors, representing PSPA, ASPAP, and Ateneo de Naga University. We shall allow them to raise their question and or clarification, and one follow-up question to our Vice President. And we shall move to the open forum to get queries from our viewers and participants, once done with the reflections and questions from our reactors. As stated in the guidelines, we encourage everyone to raise their questions by commenting them on the preferred viewing platform while the presentation is being done for us to accommodate your queries as much as our time permits. At this point, allow me to introduce briefly our resource speaker. Honorable Maria Leonor Robredo is a lawyer and the 14th Vice President of the Philippines. She is the second woman to serve as Vice President and the first Vice President from Bicol. She also served as a representative of Camarines Sur's 3rd District to the Philippine House of Representatives for the 16th Congress, a post she held until her inauguration as Vice President on June 30, 2016. Ladies and gentlemen, the Vice President of the Republic of the Philippines, Honorable Maria Leonor Robredo. Ma'am Leni.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Malu. Father Robert and the rest of the Ateneo community, our reactors who are with us this afternoon, all the participants, marahay na hapon sa inyo gabos. Mabalos na maray to the Ateneo de Naga University's Center for Local Governance for organizing this seminar and for having me. This is actually the longest I have not been home to Naga because of the pandemic. And being with you this afternoon, dawa virtually, is the next best thing. It is always an honor and a privilege to talk about how we can respond better to the challenges of our times. My husband was, as you all know, was a very proud graduate of Ateneo de Naga, and 2 of my daughters are graduates of the Loyola schools. So the word Magis gets tossed around the household often. Magis at its core is to be more, to give more, be beyond excellent, reach your highest potential, and be the best that you can be. I remember, nagirumduman ko, nabasa ko sa sarong tarpaulin sa Ateneo de Manila na agihan ko. Ang sinasabi niya, Magis is the value of choosing the more loving option. But what does this more loving option mean given our current context, where everywhere we look, people suffer in poverty and hunger with no means to support themselves? Dawa kita sa in maghiling, grabe ang pagsakit. As the months pass by, we see that more and more of our people are losing their jobs and livelihood, and thousands are getting infected with the virus. So what do we do when the end of this crisis seems so far away? There is no single fixed answer to these questions, but the call of Magis remains clear. We need to expand our circles of empathy. When we understand their pain and suffering, when we listen to their pleas, their experiences and demands, then Magis becomes more than just a call to excel. It also becomes a call to be more compassionate, more humane. In the context of governance, the more loving option is clear. Orient policies, decisions, and actions towards our people. During these extraordinary times, there is no time to waste. We have to find the gaps and fill them. We have to make our own path, set our own direction. We ourselves must rise and do what can be done in the here and now. If there is anything that this pandemic has taught us, it is this. The greater the challenge, the greater the imperative for us to contribute, to be involved, and to extend our reach to help. Everyone should be all hands on deck. Claro ito. Every step inches us closer to our collective goal. This is the same spirit that pushes our COVID-19 response operations forward at the Office of the Vice President. Early into this crisis, we understood how difficult this would be for our country. Pag nakarating yung virus dito, Since January of this year, we have already kept ourselves updated about how the coronavirus pandemic was unfolding. We spoke to experts on infectious diseases, public health, and the economy to understand how COVID-19 will affect our country and how to address these effects in an impactful, creative, and strategic manner. Our COVID relief operations began, if I am not mistaken, March 19, days before the enhanced community quarantine was imposed over Luzon, seeing how hospitals in Metro Manila were grappling with the dangers of COVID-19. At that time, PPE sets were number one in our frontliners list. Apparently, many of them had no choice but to place themselves at great risk while handling patients because they did not have the required protective gear. We appropriated a little over 5 million pesos for PPE sets, which we distributed to hospitals in Metro Manila. But as the days went by, we saw that the need was much bigger and that it would continue as the country deals with the spread of the disease. Because we have very limited resources at the Office of the Vice President, we tapped our Angat Buhay partner, the Kaya Natin movement, for an online donation drive, initially to fund PPE sets and food and care packages. Through this donation drive, we found ourselves overwhelmed by the outpouring of support from our fellow Filipinos. Thousands of our countrymen pitched in, from students, ordinary employees, OFWs, and business owners. Talagang yung range ng amounts na dinodonate sobrang expansive, from 100 pesos hanggang 1 milyon, meron nagbibigay. Every donation, big or small, was welcome and much appreciated. In the end, we were able to collect more than 61 million pesos. While we had the funds already, the next big challenge for us and that we encountered early on was the unsteady supply and fluctuating prices of PPE items, mainly because they were being imported from other countries. That was when we decided to explore the production of PPEs locally. Volunteers from the fashion and garments industry came out in full force to help design the PPEs in close coordination with medical experts who made sure that the design and the materials were up to standard. When we had approved designs already, we looked for community-based sewers. We met widows and mothers from payatas, women who lost their loved ones to senseless killings brought about by the anti-drug war, who willingly extended their help to sew our PPEs for our frontliners. We had an urban poor group of women from Smoky Mountain, home-based sewers in Talim Island in Cardona, Rizal, mga mananahe ng mga uniforms na nawala ng hanap buhay dahil walang pasok. Small and medium-sized garment factories or garment shop owners who were only too happy because their sewers would have income during the lockdown. So thanks to our partners, we have reached more than 15,000 frontliners across the country by providing at least 230,000 PPE sets as I speak, and 19,500 locally produced PPE suits kasi tuloy-tuloy pa din yung pag-distribute namin. Aside from the protective gear, we were also able to send food and care packages and medical supplies to over 1,151 institutions across the country. Binilang namin lahat na regions sa padalhan hanggang Tawi-Tawi, mula Batanes hanggang Tawi-Tawi. Akala namin nung umpisa, eto lang yung gagawin namin na COVID-related initiative. But when the ECQ started in March, many health workers were unable to go to work or were forced to walk long hours just to get to the hospital dahil nawala ng public transport. Pakiramdam namin noon, kailangan talaga may gawin kami para kahit papano makatulong. Wala namang kaming pagkaalam sa transport, pero nilakasan namin talaga yung loob namin. We immediately launched a free shuttle service for the frontliners in Metro Manila. Pero dahil naging ugali namin sa opisina na kung gagawin din lang namin, gawin na namin ng mahusay, we conducted our shuttle services following measures similar to a bus rapid transit system. There were designated stop points where passengers were picked up and dropped off. Pero may oras yung lahat na stops. The daily schedule and updates were posted on our social media pages. And we also adjusted our routes and schedules to suit the convenience of the frontliners. Nakita namin sobrang importante ito kasi hindi masyadong nai-inconvenience yung frontliners in the sense na alam nila kung anong oras dadating yung bus sa stop nila. Napaplano nila yung kanilang mga rota kung kailangan silang lumipat sa iba pang rota. And napatunayan namin na kayang gawin. Kaya siyang gawin, kabi nga na walang kaalam-alam sa transport, nagawa namin. Feeling namin parang very convenient sana kung ganito yung ating bus system. And because we are a very small office, we invited volunteers to help us. During our first run, eto yung simula pa lang ng ECQ, we had about 300 volunteers who acted as our mga konduktor, mga dispatchers, mga tagalinis taga-sanitize ng bus after every route. Sobrang heartwarming in the sense that there were a lot of people who were really willing to help despite the threat to their own health. Throughout the duration of our shuttle service, many of our passengers were very thankful. Medical frontliners got to work safely. Supermarket employees no longer had to walk for hours. Ito, marami kaming nasasakay na mga buntes na magpapa-check up, mga pasyente na hindi COVID-related yung mga sakit na magpapa-check up. Our rides brought them closer to home. But because our shuttle services were limited, mostly within Metro Manila, we received a lot of requests for temporary accommodations for frontliners. We would hear this from our regular passengers, from our social media followers, and soon enough from the news. With the help of our Angat Buhay partners, we heeded this call, and in the process, we got to help many of our frontliners, those who lived far from their workplaces, those who opted to stay away from their families para siguruhin yung kanilang kaligtasan, afraid that they might bring the virus home, and those who were discriminated against because of their profession. Nakakalungkot to, but this was really a reality, especially when we were just starting. So since we started our dorms March 23, we were able to open 12 dormitories in Metro Manila and temporary shelters in the provinces gaya ng Legazpi City sa Baguio City. Nahanap kami ng partners. As of today, some of these dorms still remain operational. Even with the social distancing in place, our partners and donors have helped us provide a sense of home and comfort to our frontliner guests through our additional amenities and assistance. Nung meron na kaming dorms, ang daming lumalapit sa amin, gustong mag-offer ng ibang amenities. Halimbawa, free haircut service. Nagkaroon kami ng partner na sila yung gumugupit sa mga frontliners, sa mga dormitories. Merong nagpahiram ng mga motor, yung motorbikes, which the frontliners can borrow to bring them to their places of work. May nagpahiram ng mga washing machine sa mga dryers para yung mga dormitories namin meron. Pati laundry detergents, may nagbigay ng sako-sako. Pati self-care, mga hygiene kits, self-care essentials, may mga nagbibigay. Hot meals and drinks, may nagbibigay. Pati free Wi-Fi connection, may lumapit sa amin, nag-offer na they did free Wi-Fi connection in all of our dorms. So sobrang yung spirit of bayanihan was really there. To date, our dormitories have served nearly 500 frontliners, among them doctors, nurses, and other medical workers, administrative personnel, pharmacists, security guards, clerks, and even bank tellers. The list of initiatives under our COVID-19 response operations has grown longer in the succeeding months as we found one gap to fill fill after another. When the number of cases increased exponentially and market vendors and tricycle drivers started losing income, we started the Community Mart program. It is an app-based palengke delivery service which actually originated in Naga. Hindi ko alam kung narinig nyo na yung Weka Technologies. Sila yung nag-start nitong app na to, and we contacted them and they were very, very much willing to partner with us. The Community Mart program aims to help market vendors and tricycle drivers improve their income while allowing our kababayans to buy their needs without having to leave their homes. We started this last May at the Kamuning Market in Quezon City in partnership with the Quezon City government led by Mayor Joy Belmonte. And not long after, days after actually, we also partnered with the Office of Mayor Vico Soto in Pasig and rolled out the Community Mart in Pasig. As of now, our Pasig mega market, ito yung biggest kasi, has reached more than 10 million pesos in sales already. So that would mean more sales also for our small market vendors and more income for our tricycle drivers to deliver the goods. Last week, we opened our third one in Muntinlupa in partnership with the Office of Mayor Jaime Fresnelli. These community marts have proven to be very beneficial to small market vendors, gaya na sabi ko kanina, who did not have the capacity to have an online platform where they can sell their goods, and tricycle drivers who did not have any source of income for many months because they were not being allowed to ply their routes. We actually have a fourth one in Zamboanga City, where instead of an app, customers can send their orders to the project's official Facebook page via Messenger. This is also in partnership with the local government of Zamboanga and with some other private partners in Zamboanga. Aside from supporting our frontliners and small business owners, our office has also launched a relief drive for poor communities in Metro Manila and in Luzon. Many of these communities are still struggling because of the quarantine restrictions. To help them during this difficult time, we have delivered more than 53,000 relief packs as of today, 37,000 kilos of vegetables, thousands of face masks and mattresses and blankets and mosquito nets, thanks to the generosity of various donors and our partner organizations. We have also helped more than 1,800 locally stranded individuals get home by providing them with transportation services, but this is in partnership with their respective local governments. We recognize that it is important to help our kababayans get through the day when access to livelihood as well as food supply is difficult for many. Ito talagang ayaw naming mapamalid dito. So siniguro namin na we were following the stringent health protocols. Fortunately, as of today, yung 1,800 na natulungan namin umuwi, wala sa kanila nagkasakit. Walang nag-test positive at all. So kaya naman kung aasikasuhin talaga na sisiguraduhin na all the health protocols are being observed. But beyond this, we believe that it is necessary to equip our communities in adjusting to the new normal. Our COVID relief operations were not limited to Metro Manila and nearby provinces. When Metro Cebu was placed under ECQ due to the rising cases, we immediately sent a team to assist Cebu frontliners and provided the same services, from free shuttle services and ferry rides to temporary living spaces for health workers, yung mga dormitories. We have actually opened 9 dormitories in 4 cities in Cebu province so far. And we distributed swab booths to different hospitals and medical institutions. For every initiative we started, our goal has always been clear: to do what must and can be done, to stretch our capabilities, and to enlarge the centers of gravity for COVID-19 response efforts. To establish some stability, something to remind our people that despite the struggles, there is a direction and sure steps that can be made toward betterment. This is the same bedrock philosophy behind our distance learning initiatives. Ito naman, sinimula namin noong June, when the Department of Education announced that classes will be offered through blended learning in the coming months. Many teachers and parents expressed great concern. Many felt unprepared. They lacked the access to internet and technology at home. There was deep anxiety regarding whether they could pull off this new mode of learning. Our office immediately responded and launched an initiative called Bayanihan Eskwela. We knew that at the core of anxiety lies a lack of confidence, not knowing what to do and how to do it, especially with the meager resources they had on hand, treading unfamiliar ground with little to hold on to except muddled policies and directives. As always, we sought to address this through bayanihan dahil kulang naman talaga kami ng resources. Together with Kaya Natin again, we also made the call for a gadget donation drive. Since many of our teachers and parents feel unprepared as we shift to distance learning, we also sought the help of subject matter experts from the UP College of Education in producing a series of videos that tackle techniques, approaches, and other tips for teaching and assisting our learners. We worked on this together with several talents in the creatives industry, production houses, ad agencies, mga artista, musicians, all of whom work pro bono and in their own homes to make the video. Talaga nakakabilib yung iba natin mga artists. Hindi ko alam kung meron sa inyong nakapanood na, pero halimbawa si Julina Magdangal, Janine Gutierrez, Sab Magalonas, sila yung nag-video ng sarili nila because of the strict quarantine procedures, but the videos turned out very well. Right now, we are also setting up community learning hubs. It is an alternate space for learners, especially those who live in the poorest and most remote communities, which more often do not have stable internet access. Ang iba nga walang internet access, ang iba wala pang kuryente, if at all. I-explain ko lang ng konti yung community learning hubs. We're looking at putting this up in places where, number one, most of the students do not have gadgets of their own. Number two, internet signal is very, very difficult. Number three, most of the parents do not have the capacity to help their children study at home. Tapos, talagang kailangan yung difficult learners, kailangan na may gumagabay. The idea is to put up these learning hubs where computers with access to the internet and lessons are there. Photocopying machines where they can print their worksheets. The presence of tutors who can guide them with their special needs. All of those things to complement what is being given already by DepEd. As of now, we have started training our volunteer tutors already. We have started setting up our community learning hubs already. Right now, if I'm not mistaken, we have a little more than 10, but we hope to establish more, especially in communities that are most in need. These are expected to open by September, ready to be used by our students once the school year starts in October. Reimagining a better normal entails casting aside all old paradigms, but also rediscovering what truly makes us human. We are human because despite our insecurities and the temptations towards self-interest, we feel an impulse to reach out, to help others, to pull together, knowing that the survival of one depends on the efforts of all. We are human because despite the darkness, we dig deep into ourselves and find the strength to move forward. Every step animated by grit and resolve, by the human spirit itself. Since the pandemic set in, I have reiterated this very message. that the only way to pull through this crisis is by moving outward and forward, palabas at pasulong. Outward meaning extending ourselves beyond our usual circles and reaching out to others with compassion, breaking out of our old self-interested bubbles and affinities, and forward by approaching each task in the here and now with the awareness that everything adds up, that every step, however small, brings us closer to the horizon. This has been the mantra of the Office of the Vice President from day one. And it is what keeps us going. Knowing that with every relief pack given, a family does not go hungry. That with every PPE set provided, a doctor or nurse or a health practitioner is protected from the virus. With every palengke delivery made, a market vendor and a tricycle driver earns enough to put food on the table. Our task now is even greater, but not impossible. Orient our horizon towards the other and take sure steps day by day, moment by moment towards our collective goal. Ito lang yung mga paalala: be kind, be giving, be truthful, be brave. Continue, persevere, and always choose the more loving option. Exemplify Magis in all things. Outward, forward. These are small steps, but are part of bigger movements that matter. Even after this pandemic, this is something we ought to remember. To be ready to fight for as we begin shaping this brave, compassionate, more humane future. Kaya Diyos mabalos, mabuhay ka mugabos.
Thank you for the insightful presentation, Vice President Leni. And thank you for sharing the mantra of the Office of the Vice President, the palabas at pasulong, that the only way to approach the future is to move outward and forward. And of course, our VP Leni shared with us the COVID-19 responses being done by the Office of the Vice President. Okay, so there's this long list of the initiatives. Okay, and just to summarize, we have the provision of the PPE daily sets, the local production of PPE suits, also the provision of the medical supplies for our frontliners, and also VP Leni shared with us the assistance provided to our locally stranded individuals, and also the dormitories and temporary shelters for frontliners. And she also made mention about the setting up of community learning hubs. Also, this assistance to the market, the community mart, and also the assistance provided to our the Bayanihan Subuanon, specifically and in Cebu. And she also made mention about Bayanihan Eskwela instructional videos provided to our teachers and parents. Okay, so at this point, we will now proceed to the reflections and reactions to be shared by our invited panel of reactors composed of representatives from PSPA, ASPAP, and Ateneo Naga University. As mentioned earlier, aside from the reflection, they will be given the chance to raise their question or clarification from VP Leni, and they will be allowed to have a follow-up question if there is any. We will start from Dr. Alex Brillantes, Jr. Dr. Brillantes is a professor from the University of the Philippines, National College of Public Administration, or UP-NCPAG. He is an ex-officio, being the former president of the Philippine Society for Public Administration, and he is currently serving as the president of the ASEAN Association for Public Administration, or APA. Allow me to share a brief background of PSPA. PSPA is the only professional organization for public administration in the Philippines that hopes to advance the praxis or the study and practice of public administration and public service in the country through its core program and services to improve the competencies, professional growth and development, networking and partnership building, and policy advocacy in shaping the country's public administration agenda. This professional organization is currently being headed by its president, Dr. Lisan Perante Calina. Friends, let us all welcome Dr. Alex Brillantes. Sir Alex, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Malu. I think I am turned off from your side. Can you hear me, Malu?
Alex,
Okay, start my video.
switch on your... Okay.
Yeah, I just did.
Okay, sir.
Thank you
okay.
very much. I was given about 6 minutes or so by Malu. And Madam Vice President, it's always so good to see you. If you recall, you were our keynote speaker in the Asian Association for Public Administration conference we had. Very successful, ma'am, and our friends from the entire region were very happy and privileged that you're with us. And of course, you have been our guest a number of times at the UP College of Public Administration and also at the PSPA. So thank you, Madam Vice President. It's always so good to see you. And we certainly honor you and thank you for your service to our country. I was asked by Malu to give some reflections, and this being a public administration gathering, I just have 4 reflections. But even as I do so, as I always do, as I mentioned, the Vice President has been and continues to be a friend of the public administration community. And of course, we all know Mayor Jess. He's been an incredible friend of public administration and local governance. We've known him some time back, even when he's a mayor in Naga City. And I still remember the time when he came to meet me in the airport using his slippers. He's just really just incredible person. And of course, Mayor Jess is among the major inspirations behind our Galing Po movement, which, as you know, continues. So, paragons of governance. Reflection number 1, public administration for me takes off from the concept of Magis. When we talk about public administration, there are 2 things: public and administration. Administration, traditionally, we talk about economy, efficiency, effectiveness. But the more important thing in public administration is the Magis side. It's about equity. Para kanino ba? It's not for the rich. It is for the disadvantaged. It is about displaying, as you mentioned in Edges, madam, it's about serving the poor. It's about having a bias. When people say they don't have a bias, that's not true. Everybody has a bias, and our bias is towards the poor. It has to be. So it's about equity, and it's about ethics and accountability. Point, dear friends, when we talk about public administration, through my reflection, it's about 5 E's and an A. Economy, efficiency, and effectiveness, but more important, the public side. For whom is public administration? It's about equity, and it's about ethics and accountability. Pananagutan, as the Vice President mentioned. Core, equity, core, Magis. I'm so happy. By the way, my children also started at the Ateneo, so I love it there. You know, person for others. I'm so proud of my girls. Reflection number 2 in the presentation of the Vice President: government is not, governance is not government alone. Governance is not government alone. Hindi kaya ng gobyerno. It's precisely why we have movements, and the Vice President mentioned this about how you partnered with the private sector. Kaya natin. I know some of the founders, including, of course, my good friend Harvey K. I met him a long, long time ago, and many of the mayors, right? It's really government in partnership with the private sector, with civil society, and with your meager resources, Madam Vice President. It's incredible how you multiplied it 10 times. I was making a computation from 6 million to about 60 million. My goodness, you just don't pluck that from anywhere. But people give out of Magis. Okay? So you're able to deliver PPEs, the shuttle bus service, dorms, haircut. Maybe I should have a haircut. I haven't been out of my house for a long, long time now. So, and then the relief drive, etc. So governance is not government alone. Reflection number 2. Reflection number 3, you know, Madam Vice President, your efforts really showed that it's about partnership. It's about partnership between national, yourself with the DepEd, yourself with the other agencies, but equally important, and this is where Mayor Jess is really super, partnership between national and local. And local and local. You partnered with Quezon City, you partnered with Pasig, you partnered with Muntinlupa, Zamboanga City. And equally important, it's about the fifth point, so it's about partnership, but it's also about working with leaders. We have good leaders. I happen right now to be working with the Pasig City, and you know, of course, that our leaders include Mayor Vico, Mayor Yorme, etc. No, but really, public administration is not only about changing structures. You know, whenever we have new, let's say, new government, we begin by reorganizing. That's very true. Since 1950 po, since 1950, when we have a new government, it's about changing structures. But it's more than that. You can reorganize till you're blue in the face. Pero pag hindi po magbabago, Madam President, as you pointed out, pag hindi magbabago ang pag-iisip, you talk about paradigm shift. I think that's very, very important. For whom aspect? And equally important, I was about to say, leadership. Leadership is key. And finally, you talk about the importance of citizens' engagement. It has to involve the people. You can have reforms for all you care, but if the citizens are not involved, if there's no ownership, it will not succeed. So you remind, Madam President, you remind us about our reform. We've done a reform at the Philippine Society for Public Administration with Dr. Kalina, the importance of changing structures, but in your presentation, change your mindset, leadership, and citizens' engagement. And finally, I'll shut up after this, public administration, and you reminded us about this too, is about the town and gown. We in the academe, when we graduate, we wear our gowns, etc. But we cannot remain in the ivory tower. Kailangan tayong maglanding. We cannot remain about theories. Magaganda po mga teorya. Pag hindi po maglalanding, yung sinasabi kanina ni Malu, na praxis. And you talked about the importance of learning hubs, and that is where we really, as they say, that where the rubber hits the ground. So I think those are my 5 major reflections. I'm very grateful to you for even triggering these reflections and for even affirming it. And most important, Madam Vice President, for pushing the theory of public administration for us in the academy. But as I mentioned, kailangan rin po kaming makapag-landing. At isang tanong ko po, napakarami po natin mga magagandang programa, and I'm sure you've heard about this question is, I guess, the whole sustainability of this all. This could have been initiated by the Office of the Vice President. No, we multiplied by 10 times, 5 million to about 6 million to 60 million, etc. At the end of the day po, how many of these programs could, quote unquote, be absorbed by the government po, or how can we sustain it? And eventually, para when these initiatives are not there, patuloy pa rin. And that's the role of government. For us in public administration, government certainly is important, but it cannot be it cannot do it alone. That's why we have to work with you. We have to work with the private sector, but we have to work with NGOs. But equally important, when they're gone, it's government that provides the sustainability. Question, some of these incredible programs that we talk about, will they eventually be transferred, or the sustainability aspect, or continue to be an initiative of the Vice President, including partnership with, let's say, DepEd, with the SWD? Again, Madam Vice President, it's so good to see you. You are very, very highly respected. And thank you for teaching us this afternoon. Maraming salamat po. Mabuhay po kayo, Madam Vice.
Thank you, sir. I'm very well aware that sustainability will always be a problem. Pero kami, sir, from 2016, when we started our Angat Buhay program, that's the focus of all our efforts, really, so that every time we go to the ground, we make sure that we are partnering with local government, the local government unit, and there is a local organization who is also our partner. So parang lahat na ginagawa namin, sir, parating tripartite. Kami, LGU, saka yung private group sa lokal. And in this time of COVID, ginagawa na namin yun. Halimbawa, community marts. When we started with the community marts, halimbawa, Quezon City was one. We trained the staff of the Quezon City government already. Nung okay na sila, iniwan na namin. We're just supervising now. We're doing capability building trainings for the vendors and the tricycle drivers. Pero yung day-to-day operation sila na. It's the same with Pasig. It's the same with Pasig. Binabada namin siya ng 2 buwan. Every single day, nasa Pasig yung aming market team. Pero when they got a hang of it already, same. Supervisory na lang kami. Supervisory kami. We still go many times a week. We still do the capability building training, but the day-to-day operation sila na. Nakababad kami ngayon sa Muntinlupa because it's new. And probably we will be there for the next 2 or 3 weeks until they are okay na. But for many of our programs, it's always been like that. Sa amin, sir, very necessary na may ownership. May ownership yung lokal. Kasi we are very much aware that we will only be here until 2022. So sayang yung resources kung hindi siya mapatuloy. So whenever we plan for projects, sustainability is always one of the key areas of concern. Kasi if it's not sustainable, we don't do it anymore. Kasi feeling namin magsasayang kami ng meager resources namin. So we only go when we have shared values with the LGUs. Kasi paminsan willing pero iba yung paniniwala, mahirap din ipilit. So yung sa amin, ayaw namin ng dole outs. Gusto namin yung help empowering. Pero again, yung partnership, it's always parang a requirement. Either yung city government o provincial government o barangay, basta may LGU na kapartner.
Thank you. I'll shut up after this now. Really, ang ganda po because you talk about targeting. You choose LGUs that you have shared values, which I think is very, very important, I think. But of course, ang nilabas po ninyo is your role is really the enabler, providing the enabling environment, and then you move on. But of course, hindi yung shotgun na lahat. You have your targeting and of course, shared values. The shared value, I think, of our theme for today, Magis. Mabuhay po kayo, mabuhay ang Ateneo po. Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Madam.
Okay, so maraming salamat, Sir Alex, for sharing inspiring reflections. And of course, salamat din, VP Leni, for your response. We will now request our second reactor, Dean Dan Saguil, to respond to the presentation made by our speaker. Dean Dan Saguil is from the University of the Philippines National College of Public Administration. He is also an ex-officio, being the Secretary General of the Association of Schools of Public Administration in the Philippines. Allow me to share a brief background of ASPAP. It is a premier professional organization advancing excellence and innovation in PA education and governance that promotes collaboration and co-creation of knowledge, innovation, and good practices among PA schools, enhances the quality of PA education, research and services, and networks and partners with PA and government stakeholders for sustained institutional and policy reforms. This professional organization is also headed by the Polytechnic University of the Philippines, with Dr. Sanjay Claudio as the official representative. Friends, let us listen to Dean Dan Saguil.
Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. Medyo mahirap na yata mag-react. Nauna si Sir Alex. Sir, in-over mo na lahat, sir. Una po sa lahat, no, I would like to start by wishing you and your families my best for your health and safety. Alam naman natin, may COVID pa. I would like also to express my gratitude to Ateneo de Naga, to ASPAP for hosting and facilitating this conversation. At maraming salamat po, Madam Vice President, for being here, for sharing ang inyong mga efforts ng opisina nyo na sana naman mag-inspire naman sa ibang mga opisina at sa ibang mga individual pa. Now, COVID-19 is a human tragedy and our hearts go out to all those who have lost loved ones and to those putting themselves at risk to save others. Sa katotohanan po, araw-araw na lang mayroon po akong kaba dahil 13 po sa aking kamag-anak dito sa Pilipinas, 3 abroad, ay lahat po ay frontliners. Kaya po medyo mabigat sa akin sa araw-araw yung anak ko, yung dalawang anak ko nasa ospital, mga kapatid ko. It is important that we learn as many as lessons as we can because COVID-19 has put a spotlight really on who we are and what we are. Ito nyo naman po sa balita pa ngayon, may nagsasamantala pa, nakakahirap-hirap na nga, may nananamantala pa. Sa katotohanan po, si Ma'am Malu, alam po niya to nung ako yung kanyang inimbita. Sabi ko, Ma'am Malu, friendly ba ako o critical? No. Kasi po, nung nakita ko po yung title ng ating conversation, called to Magis, ano ba to? Magis na plural. Sabi ko, plural na yung Magay, ba't Magis pa? Naalala ko, Ateneo nga pala ito. Sorry po. Baka namang, yung pangatlo po, meron pa pong isa. Baka magic na lang ang sasalba sa atin sa mga pinagagawa ng iba. No? Dahil po sa dami ng pangangailangan natin. No? When this crisis hit, no, people expect our leaders to rise to the occasion. Alam naman natin that we cannot fix our country's problem overnight. But we can make them feel heard. We can make them feel loved. Yung pong kailangan po natin. Kaya po maganda itong topic natin na huwag sana tayong malupit sa ating kapwa. Yung kalupitan ng nauuna rather than compassion, being sensitive to others po, yung pagiging understanding. Alam mo, tandaan natin, this is a tragedy. Walang may gustong mangyari ito. Kaya huwag naman tayong malupit sa kapwa natin. Now, it is for this reason that we must share and be aware of the ingredients, no, ng ating mga communication sa ating kapwa, like sharing and difficult news, no, makipag-usap sa mga unhappy clients natin, or hosting last-minute conferences, at tulad nito, sharing ng mga experiences, and of course, kasama na rin yung giving. Nabanggit na po ito ni Sir Alex, tama po ito, kailangan empower natin. Tulungan natin ang ating mga kababayan para tulungan din nila ang kanilang sarili. Totoo po, hindi nila kailangan ng dole-out. No? Kung isasalba, tulong po ang kailangan. The information that we share will help our public to make informed decisions with respect to protecting themselves or their communities from COVID-19. Itong ginagawa po natin ngayon, ang ginagawa po ng inyong opisina, Madam Vice President, facilitate civic engagement and collective action toward mitigating the current crisis and preventing future risks. Alam naman natin, hindi lang ngayon ito. Hanggang sa darating pa nga pa panahon, kailangan talaga nagtutulungan tayo, sama-sama, kapit-bisig tayo, moving forward. Alam din naman natin as leaders that we usually do not have or we do not wait to have perfect information, no, or a detailed plan, but acknowledging the gravity of our problem, no, what is happening, and empathizing with people, no, impact goes a long way. Now, we should remember that when tensions are high, the risk of appearing insensitive, no, goes high too. No, kaya sabi ko nga, huwag sanang puro pagiging malupit lang. At ganun po, napakaganda nga po ng ginagawa ng inyong opisina, Madam Vice President, for reaching, helping, lifting ng ating mga kababayan. Nakita ko rin po sa inyo na you put yourself in somebody else's shoes. Nahihirapan magpay. Isipin natin kung tayo nahihirapan. Kaya dito po sa opisina ko naman, nararamdaman ko yung hirap na lang pagpasok sa trabaho, tapos walang public transportation. It's very good na gumawa po kayo ng paraan para makatulong sa marami nating kababayan, lalo na sa ating mga frontliners. Maigi rin po yung tono ng inyong presentation, yung tono ng kabuuan ng activity nyo, relatable. No? Yung bang nararamdaman ng tao na sila minamahal. Yun po ang maganda doon . Hindi yung pinagsisilbihan lang. No? Iba ho yung pakiramdam ng silbi lang sa minamahal yung tao. No? At yan po ang ng Magis naman talaga. Gawin ng mga bagay na may buong pagmamahal, hindi lang basta pagbibigay. We also I also appreciate po, no, nakita ko po that you're trying to instill confidence sa mga kababayan natin sa ating mga tinutulungan. We take, yun naman na iniestima natin kung anong gusto nila at tulungan natin sila. Yan po ang kailangan din ng public administration sa totoo lang po. Hindi po detailed execution of public lang, but understanding who our clients are. No? When things are tough, tulad sa panahon ngayon, so part of our job is the energy that we bring to the situation. At nakita ko lang po in your presentation, talagang yung energy naman po ninyo, no, ramdam na ramdam. No? At sana ay maka-inspire nga sa iba pa natin mga kababayan. This is how we should fight the war against COVID. We must be swift, focused, and most of all, supportive of each other. No, we hope that itong conversation na to will be effective, no, in calling for others to do the same. No, wag naman pagsamantalahan pa yung ating mga kababayan. No? At sa bahagi naman po ng nasa pamahalaan, we hope that the things that you are doing raises our capabilities as government officials and officers. Huwag pong naghihintay lang. Kumilos naman. Hindi bureaucracy lang ang magpapatakbo. Lahat po tayo sama-sama. Actually, mahirap na pong magtanong kasi po sinabi na ni Sir Alex. Sasabihin po sana dito, how can we sustain? How can we invite others to be part of this effort? Nasagot na po. Sana man po makahawa pa ng mas maraming kababayan natin, no, to do the same. Maraming salamat po sa inyo, Madam Vice President. Maraming salamat, Ateneo. Actually, sa kabuuan ng Ateneo, no, yung Magis na yan, sana mahawa natin ang marami nating kababayan. Isipin ng bayan bago ang sarili. Maraming salamat po.
Salamat po.
Okay, so maraming salamat din Dan Saguil for sharing inspiring thoughts. Meron po ba kayong response, VP Leni, sa sinabi po ni Dean Dan Saguil?
Siguro ano lang, parang mas rejoinder na tama si Dean na yung public administration hindi siya vertical. Yung public administration, marami talaga siyang sanga na nahahanap mo yung mga sangang yon pag binabad mo yung sarili mo sa kliyenteng pinagsisilbihan mo. Parang napakahirap manilbihan na papel lang yung kausap mo. Nag-a-approve ka lang ng mga papel pero hindi mo naman sila nakikita o nakakausap. I think yun yung yun yung nag-distinguish. Yung sinasabi ni Dean kanina na iba yung pinagsisilbihan sa minamahal. And I think yung pagmamahal, hindi yun naaaral. Yung pagmamahal, pinapakiramdaman. At mararamdaman mo lang siya pag you go to, parang you allow yourself to be as close to the ground as possible. Because it is where empathy is developed. So siguro challenge then for all of us na una ma-inspire hindi lang sa ginagawa namin pero this pandemic nakita natin yung wellspring of generosity and thoughtfulness na napakaraming grupo, marami sa kanila mga private groups na mas nakikwento siya, mas nagbibigay siya ng inspirasyon. Kasi pinapakita niya na despite the difficulties, marami tayong pwedeng gawin. So, pero siguro yung rejoinder ko lang dun kay Sir Dan, paminsan yung sinabi niya, yun yung nami-miss ng iba. Na iba yung hindi mo isinasa puso. Kasi yung klase ng paninilbihan ay iba. Pwedeng gumagawa ka lang, pero pag hindi mo isinasa puso, iba yung lalim ng paninilbihan. And I think it's what makes the difference.
Not the least reactor is Dr. Federico Jose Lagdameo. He is our faculty in the MPA program of the Graduate School and at the same time our chair in the University Research Council. Friends, let us listen to Dr. Lagdameo. Sir Eric, please.
Good afternoon to all, and first, also good afternoon, Madam Vice President. First, I'd like to express deep appreciation for what your office has done and what you personally has done for our country. I think bayadang troll na lang siguro ang hindi makaka-recognize ng nagawa ng office nyo at saka nyo para sa atin sa panahon ng pandemyang ito. Be that as it may, I'd like to, actually, I don't have a reaction of sorts, but what I do have are really 3 questions, which stems from also the presentation that you've made. The first has something to do with a call that you made, particularly yung call na all hands on deck. Ang question ko about this call is something like this. How can we proceed with healing as one when some hands won't deliberately join with ours? So how do we proceed with healing as one when some hands won't deliberately join with ours? The other 2 questions, the last 2 questions I'd like to raise are more contextual insofar as I'm in Naga City and I am part of a educational institution like Ateneo de Naga. And the questions I'd like to raise, parang reflection, Madam Vice President, is the question of Magis. In your estimation, Ma'am Leni, what more do you think can the Naga LGU and in general LGUs can do in addressing this pandemic? The second is something to do with us as an educational institution. In your estimation, what more can we do, Ateneo de Naga, for instance, or more specifically Ateneo de Naga, what more can we do to help contribute to address the detrimental effects of this pandemic? So yun po, Madam Vice President.
Okay,
Thank you, sir. Ako, first question muna. Paano, ano yung gagawin natin na merong mga kamay na hindi on deck?
Exactly, Madam. It's a problem.
You know, to a very large extent, that's been the cause of so much frustration also for many of us. Pero you cannot give up kasi. You cannot give up dahil lang may hindi gumagawa ng trabaho. O you cannot give up dahil hindi nagfo-focus sa ginagawa natin. Yung sa atin talaga, we continue to push the envelope. Kung napapansin nyo, parang ngayon lang ako nagsalita. Over the last, parang July, August lang. Because I really wanted to put up a more united front because I think that's what the country needs. Pero binabalanse mo din kasi. Binabalanse mo, especially if nakikita mo na may maraming mga kailangan gawin na hindi ginagawa. Pero it's what I've been telling my staff. Kasi syempre yung staff namin sila yung sumusuong sa panganib. When they feed communities, talagang sila yung nandun. Yun yung parati ko sa kanilang sinasabi na marami tayong bagay na hindi kontrolado. Marami tayong bagay na hindi kontrolado, pero yung kontrolado lang natin yung sarili natin. So yung kaya nating maabot sa yung magagawa natin sa abot ng ating makakaya, gawin natin. But if we feel that we could influence policy in any way, gawin natin. Pag tinitingnan natin na may dapat gawin na hindi nila ginagawa, kung kaya mo lang namang gawin mo na. Yun actually yung ginagawa namin na tingin namin, halimbawa, nung hininto yung mga public transport, tingin namin, before sana hininto, dapat sana nagpasiguro na. Nagpasiguro na walang maaabala, lalo na sa frontliners, pero hindi ginawa. Pero alam nga naman magreklamo lang kami magreklamo. So kami, dahil hindi ginawa, kami na lang gagawa. Of course, it would have been better kung yung paggawa nito at a much bigger scale, considering the limitations of our office. Pero we don't allow our limitations to get in the way of what we're doing. Basta sa amin, yung kaya natin gawin na natin. whether maliit ito, whether hindi ito sa scale na tingin natin kailangan gagawin pa din natin. Halimbawa, itong blended learning. Tingin namin maraming kailangan gawin. Pero we do offer our thoughts to DepEd. We wrote them. We have met with some of the DepEd officials to discuss our initiatives. Pero parang regardless of whether we are frustrated or not, the fact remains na may pwede kaming gawin eh. So gagawin na namin, hoping na yung paggawa namin, yung iba may inspire din, gumalaw na din. Yun yung first question. Yung second question, tingin ko, hindi lang sa Naga, pero tingin ko sa lahat. Hindi lang LGUs, pero pati mga NGAs, national government agencies. Tingin ko yung kulang, yung pagiging data-driven, tingin ko yun yung kulang. Parang hindi matatawaran yung sipag. Tingin ko masisipag. Hindi siguro matatawaran yung good intentions kasi yung good intentions nandyan. Pero tingin ko kasi mas magiging effective yung ating policies. We would have more effective policies if these are based on facts and data. Lalo ngayong pandemic, this is the first time this is happening to us. So para sa akin, importante yung numero. Importante yung kaisipan ng mga experts. Kasi tayo, hindi naman tayo experts, so kailangan makinig tayo sa nakakaintindi. Pangatlo, importante yung lessons ng ibang mga lugar. Importante yung best practices ng ibang mga lugar. Parang maraming bagay na hindi mo na nga kailangang maging creative kasi meron ng examples na mga gagawin. Yun yung isang frustration ko na I think we are not taking advantage of the data that is there. Yun yung number one. And number two, maraming efforts pero paminsan hindi masyadong conscious sa outcomes. Ano yun, parang pag sinabi na ginagawa naman namin ito, pero ginagawa mo, pero anong resulta dun sa ginawa mo? Parang kulang yung pagtutok sa outcomes. Alam ba, sasabihin na, hindi na nga kami natutulog sa gabi katatrabaho. Pero parang hindi masyadong conscious sa metrics. And I think for public administrators, mahalaga lagi yung, hindi lang yung plano, pero yung anong nangyari sa plano mo, o anong yan nangyari sa ginawa mo. Kasi kahit anong sipag mo, if yung sipag mo is not giving you the desired results, wala pa din eh. Wala pa din. So, yung sa akin, yung dalawang yon, yung pagiging data-driven to help with policy, para sa akin, yung policy sa decisions should always be based on data. Tapos yun nga, yung metrics, maging conscious sa metrics, magkaroon ng metrics, maging conscious sa outcomes. Kasi if things are not giving us the desired results, gustong sabihin, they are not working. So, yung calibration as we go along, what we're doing, things that are not working, sabi ko nga, don't reinvent the wheel. Na things that are working, yun yung you have to replicate them. Pero things that are not working, that's when you need to be creative and strategic. So yun yung sagot ko sa pangalawa. Sa pangatlo, ano yung magagawa ng Ateneo? Marami. Mag-concentrate na lang ako sa education. There is a lot that needs to be done as we shift to the new normal in education, which is blended learning. I know it's a lot of work for teachers already, and I know it's a lot of work for students also. Pero Ateneo has been known to be very good in education. And we can help public schools cope by helping them adjust to the new normal. I've been meeting a lot of teacher groups from all over the country. Iba-iba, parang they are differently situated. Kaya parati kong sinasabi sa DepEd whenever I talk to them na hindi pwedeng one size fits all dito. Kasi iba-iba yung pinanggagalingan. Halimbawa, Metro Manila schools are better off than the rest. Schools in key cities are better off than the rest. Pero yung mga nasa mga malalayo, sila yung mas nangangailangan talaga ng tulong. I've been advocating for face-to-face classes for communities where there is no community transmission. Kasi if you can just imagine how difficult it will be, not just for the teachers, but also for the students. So I would like to think that Ateneo can be a big help as far as this transition is concerned. Halimbawa, if there are community learning hubs, baka pwedeng opportunity ito for internship of our education students. And we're tapping into that pool already in some of our community hubs. Yung ating IT students can help in developing videos or developing online materials. Kasi, halimbawa, some of the teachers we've talked to sinasabi, ang dami namang pinapa-attendan sa amin ng mga webinars yung DepEd na libre naman. Pero hindi namin naiintindihan kasi hindi nga namin alam yung step 1 saka step 2. So, yung marami pang pagkukulang sa basic. Baka dyan sa atin, yung Naga teachers are better off than some. Pero marami tayong coastal communities. Marami tayong mga bukid na wala naman, kahit phone signal nga, wala. Parang siguro makatulong ang Ateneo how to be creative. Kasi paminsan, I understand that the problems besetting DepEd now is too complex and they would need our help. Pero yun nga, it's para sa akin, it's the whole of community who should be helping eh. Who should be helping kasi these are our kids. And if we fail in this particular challenge, parang pupunta pa sa next generation yung problema natin eh. And that is one thing that we should arrest at this point. So sa akin, there are really a lot of things that you can do. Kami nga sa OVP, wala namang kaming kaalam-alam sa education. But we're working very, very closely with the UP College of Education for them to guide us along the way. Halimbawa, I don't know if any one of you have seen some of our videos already. We have a YouTube channel already and a Facebook page. And as of now, I think we have 8 videos already. We're producing 24 before school year starts. And these are all instructional guides for teachers and students. Parang kami, hindi naman namin kaya yon. Yung kami lang yung nagkaroon ng idea and pinagtagpo lang namin yung UP College of Education, yung mga production houses, yung mga mga advertising agencies, yung mga artista. Kami lang yung kami lang yung taga-organize sa kanila for them to come together. But the products are really, parang it was worth all the efforts, the sleepless nights for many of members of our team. Pero I think Ateneo is in a better position to do things like that. Kasi mas marami kayong alam kaysa sa amin eh. Mas equipped kayo, mas equipped with expertise, mas equipped din with human resource.
Thank you, Ma'am VP. Thank you for sharing.
Leni.
Thank you.
So time check po, 3:30. So I suppose it's just okay for VP Leni and our guests in the Zoom room, including our viewers, to extend for a few minutes. We'll entertain one question from our viewer. Kasi po yung iba, nasagot na rin naman po ni VP Leni. So there's one coming from Dr. Murillo of the Graduate School. So curious how the OVP facilitates its participatory and consultative programs or schemes in getting partner organizations and private citizens involved in the formulation or identification of solutions. This is in line with COVID-19 pandemic. Ma'am Leni, please.
Ako, ma'am, ang pinaka ingredient lang talaga o pinaka investment lang namin, tiwala. Parang tiwala na pag nakipag-partner sila sa amin, halimbawa, for donors, Pag natiwala na pag nakipag-partner sila sa amin, sigurado sila na mapupunta sa mabuti yung kanilang inambag. But it's a continuing process of networking, of showing results, of bringing them to the communities they are helping. Kasi kami, ma'am, yung ginagawa namin, hindi kami tumatanggap lang ng ambag. Halimbawa, may gusto mag-donate. Hindi kami nasa-satisfy na binigyan lang kami ng pera. Ang sa amin, actually, hindi nga kami tumatanggap ng pera. Halimbawa, may magdo-donate. I-share ko lang po ito as an example. One of the things that we've been doing for, as far as our advocacy for education is concerned, is building dormitories inside public high schools in places where the dropout rate is very high. And the reason for that is that children have to walk several kilometers each way just to go to school. Meron po kami mga dormitories sa Siayan in Zamboanga del Norte. We have dormitories in Sumilaw in Bukidnon. We have dormitories in Balangkayan and Salcedo in Eastern Samar. So mga lugar na malalayo talaga. Wala naman kaming pera. Ang meron lang kami idea. So we pitch the idea to organizations na natingin namin advocacy din nila yung education. Halimbawa, Rotary. Advocacy din nila yung education. So we pitch the idea, pero pag may buy-in na sila, hindi kami pumapayag ni hindi sila sasama dun sa lugar. Kasi para sa amin, gusto namin maramdaman ng partner namin yung ownership of the program, hindi yung basta lang siya nagbigay ng pera. Hindi kami pumapayag na halimbawa mag-inaugurate ng dormitory na yung nagbigay wala doon. So kami, dinadala talaga namin doon, pinapakilala sa principal o pinapakilala sa teachers, involved siya sa halimbawa pagpili ng house parent ng dorm, sa pag come up with sino ba yung ipa-prioritize. Kasi kami, yung priority namin, pinakamahirap na estudyante, pinakamalayong inuuwian. So, we involve our partners every step of the way. And it turned out to be very beneficial also. Kasi halimbawa, pag dinadala namin sila dun sa lugar, mas naiengganyo sila to help more. Halimbawa, meron kaming partners na una, ang promise lang sa amin, yung boys dorm yung papagawa niya. Pero pagpunta niya doon, nakita niya na may need sa girls dorm, sasabihin niya, sige na nga, pagpapagawa pa kami ng girls dorm. So things like that. So number one, you have to be very trustworthy for people to, for people to trust you with their resources. And number two, to involve them every step of the way. Para yon. I think ownership is very important. Ayoko ng partnership na basta lang may donor ng pera. Mas mabuti yung partnership yung tulong kayo mula umpisa hanggang sa hulihan. And we update them. Kahit ngayon, even the smallest contribution sa amin, sinusulatan talaga namin. Sinasabi namin kung saan napunta yung kanilang donation. I think it makes them feel feel part of the entire process. And yung mga partners namin from 2016 hanggang ngayon, partners pa din namin sila.
So yung which are posted in our platforms, they have been responded to already by our VP Leni. So at this point, can we get last few words from our Vice President Leni?
Ako lang, thank you again. Thank you, Malu. Thank you to Ateneo, Naga. Father Robert, thank you for having me this afternoon. As I have said, it has always been an honor and a privilege to share our initiatives, because I think this gives everyone hope, in the sense na having few resources, or having one of the smallest budgets in the office, or having a very small mandate is not really, parang it should not hinder us from doing what we can do. And I think what we have done at the Office of the Vice President, sana it would serve as an inspiration to small groups also, na there is no help that is too small. Yung aking ang pakiusap sa mga natutulungan namin, sabi ko hindi namin kailangan ng kapalit. Kailangan lang namin pag natulungan namin ikaw, sana makatulong ka din sa kapitbahay mo. And I think this spirit of hindi lang yung bayanihan per se, pero the spirit of being of help, parang to the least of our brothers and sisters. Napakalaking bagay at a time like this. So yun siguro yung panghuling pananalita na sana we find it in our hearts to feel the responsibility to take care of yung ating mga nakikita naghihirap. These are very, very difficult times for the country. Sinasabi ko to sa staff ko, maswerte tayo kasi may sweldo tayo galing sa gobyerno. Pero not everyone is lucky enough to be in the position that we're in. So may obligasyon tayo to give back kasi tayo yung maswerte ngayon. So sana yun din yung nararamdaman ng bawat isa sa atin. Na walang maliit. May mapakain ka lang ng isang meal, isang araw, malaking bagay na yon for their survival. So sana from this, I know a lot of you have been helping already, pero sana hindi kayo magsawa. Sana hindi kayo magsawa. Parang we're in this for the long haul. Mararamdaman natin in the years to come yung epekto ng pandemya. So sana patuloy yung pag-aaruga natin sa mga kasama natin.
Maraming salamat, Vice President Leni. And of course, maraming salamat to our panel of reactors, Dr. Alex Brillantes, Dean Dan Saguil, and Dr. Eric Lagdameo. So we will now proceed to the awarding of the certificates of appreciation to our speaker and reactors. So allow me to read the citation. So we have the Ateneo de Naga University Center for Local Governance in coordination with the Graduate School, Master in Business Administration and Master in Public Administration Cluster, and in partnership with the Association of Schools of Public Administration in the Philippines and in the Philippine Society for Public Administration, awards the Certificate of Appreciation to Honorable Maria Leonor G. Robredo for unselfishly sharing her time, knowledge, and expertise as a resource speaker during the webinar, Tara, Mag-TIK-TALK Tayo, responding to the call of Magis to heal as one country, held on August 28, 2020 from 2 p.m. until 3:30 supposedly via Zoom cloud meeting. So signed, yours truly. So this is our certificate for our VP Leni. So can we give her a virtual round of applause, please?
Salamat.
Okay, so maraming salamat po ulit, VP Leni. And also, we have the same certificate of appreciation to our panel of reactors. So we have the same certificate of appreciation for Dr. Alex B. Brillantes Jr., Sir Alex. Ito po yon. Then the same certification will also be given to Dean Dan A. Saguil, and of course to Dr. Federico Jose T. Lagdameo. So again, can we give them a virtual round of applause, please? At this point, we shall listen to the closing message to be given by our University President, Father Roberto Ezequiel Rivera of the Society of Jesus. Father Robert, please. Okay.
Thank you very much, Doc Malu. Doc Malu, VP Leni, with your indulgence, before going to the actual closing remarks, I just want to address very quickly what the Vice President said about Ateneo helping other schools, especially to this time of the new normal, especially in education. We're very happy to report po na the Region 5 education institutions, with Ateneo de Naga in the lead, and many other education institutions here in Naga, especially the University of Nueva Cáceres, the Naga College Foundation, the University of Northeastern Philippines, your own alma mater, Universidad de Santa Isabel, and many other schools among the state universities and colleges here have formed a consortium, no? And have been given funding by CHED to help train in flexible learning. We're proud to report po na this is only one of two such grants given by CHED throughout the country. The other one was given to the University of the Philippines Open University. We would like to believe this effort at helping our, especially the less fortunate higher education institutions, is really in the spirit of what you have been challenging us to do, to reach out in empathy, especially to those who have less in the midst of this crisis. We are hoping that the DepEd can do something similar for our basic education units. So to go to the closing remarks, again, maraming hapon po sa Gabos as we come to the end of this wonderful series of webinars titled Tara Mag TIK-TALK Tayo, organized by the Ateneo de Naga Center for Local Governance. We are thankful to all of you, our friends here in Naga and from all over the country who have followed this series. We thank and congratulate Dr. Malu Bersariano, Director of the Center for Local Governance, and the ADNU CLG team for their hard work in conducting this series. We are especially grateful for our distinguished and expert reactors for today, Dr. Alex Brillantes, Dean Dan Saguil, and Doc Eric Lagdameo. Maraming salamat po. Today is truly special in that we end this series of talks with no less than the Vice President of the Republic, the Honorable Maria Leonor Robredo. VP Leni, we are truly grateful that despite your very extremely busy schedule, you have blessed us with your presence, and more importantly, by your generous witness and service and love for our country. It is said that the future is in the hands of those who are willing to get their hands dirty. I think this saying is especially true even in this age of COVID-19 and of manic hand washing and sanitation. We thank you, VP Leni, for your example of Magis, of humble Christ-like service, or you and your team, by getting your hands dirty, literally, in doing the on-the-ground work necessary to carry our nation through this pandemic. You have done this tirelessly since the start of the crisis, often putting yourself in harm's way, all the while rejecting empty politicking and uncharitable demagoguery. You have eschewed traditional politics to show the way to true servant leadership. You have articulated a comprehensive program for our way forward as a country, even as others simply choose to mouth empty empty promises. Madam Vice President, we pray for your service of leadership and for your safety and good health so that you may continue to serve in the spirit of Magis, of doing more for God's people, for God's greater glory. Once again, dear friends, our sincerest thanks to all of you for joining us, not only today, but for this whole series of TIK-TALKs. Let us continue in the words of VP Leni, na urong, pasulong, palabas, moving outward and forward with great generosity. So to VP Leni sa Gabos, salamat asin Diyos mabalos. Mabuhay po ang Pilipinas.
Thank you for the inspiring message, Father Robert. Before we formally end this webinar, can we request for a group photo for us in this Zoom virtual room with our VP Leni and with Father Robert and our reactors, Dr. Alex, Dean Dan, Dr. Eric, and the rest of our guests in the Zoom virtual room. Can we request you to please switch on your video, please, for a group photo? Our technical team will be giving us the hint if okay na po. Kerwin, please. Okay, so we're done. So for our participants, as reflected in the posted guidelines, only those registered who confirm their participation and who will be filling out the online evaluation form will be given an e-certificate of participation. The link for the evaluation form will be posted online after this webinar. And we wish to invite you all to subscribe to the Ateneo CLG YouTube channel so that you can be notified of the recent uploads and activities of the Ateneo Naga University Center for Local Governance. On behalf of the Ateneo Naga University Center for Local Governance and the Graduate School, together with ASPAP and PSPA, my sincerest thanks to Vice President Leni and to our reactors, Dr. Alex Brillantes, Dean Dan Saguil, and Dr. Eric Lagdameo for sharing significant inputs and for their time this afternoon. And of course, thank you to our participants and viewers for joining us in this online activity. It has been an insightful and inspiring afternoon. We hope that this conversation provided new insights and lessons as we continue to fight and respond to this COVID-19 pandemic, leading to a better normal society. Let us continue to be mindful on increasing physical and mental resilience, reducing transmission, reducing contact, and reducing duration of infection. Further, let us also put our respective share to respond and to recover from this health crisis and to address critical social and economic impacts. This formally ends our webinar. Again, maraming salamat po and good day everyone. So for VP Leni, maraming salamat po ma'am, Sir Alex, Father Robert, Dean Dan Saguil. Hindi ko po sila nakikita.
Thank you po. Thank you
Thank you,
po.
everyone.
Dean
Thank
Dan,
you, Doc
Alex.
Alex. Doc.
Very much po.